Hello my friends, while I'm waiting for the new military map update, I think we're gonna focus on other news around Ukraine and not only. Well, about the situation on the front lines, we have the comment from President of Ukraine Zelensky, and he says that Russia is preparing for the major strike in two of the directions. Yeah, before experts say that it could be Pokrovsk, but I think Russia is also looking to strike in Zaporizhia Oblast, because there were some of the attempts to attack already not far away from Orikhiv. And this video was shared today. You can see Vladimir Putin tries to handle the pistol. Just look at this. Where's the KGB experience? Putin! Come on, you can do it! Remove the magazine. Oh, bullets? Any? He's just a clown, you know? It was absolutely not the fast recharge here. Here's the defense minister, and this is probably the director of this factory which produces the weapons. What is interesting about this video that it's kind of rare to see Putin wearing military uniform. Usually he sends the signal with it. The last time he wore this uniform was at the end of the Ukrainian operation in Kursk, where Putin marked the liberation of the Russian territories with military uniform. Plus, it also means that Russia is not willing to stop. Putin is full in to military. As far as Putin is the president, as far as the Russian economy is alive, the war, unfortunately, will continue. Putin attended the military drills which are ongoing in Belarus. Joint forces of Belarus and the Russian army mostly are taking part. And it seems like today it was the last day of those military drills, I mean the hottest part, and we'll see if Russia keeps its forces on Belarus territory after the military drills, because before their attack on Ukraine, I mean full-scale attack, Russia kept forces there for several months, 2 at least, and they sent even more reinforcements, and after it attacked Ukraine from the north. So it could be the part of the escalation if Russia keeps its forces in Belarus after the military drills. Okay, I know Russian because it's my mother language, and what Putin says here that 100,000 troops are taking part in the military drills, then before Belarus officials were saying about 12,500. Exactly the same thing as it happened at the end of 2021. The declared number was roughly 13,000, but actually Russia sent many more forces. So why 13,000? Because if it is more than that number, there should be by a rule some of the representatives of the neighboring countries, plus negotiations about particular shooting ranges or bases which could be used, so not to escalate against those neighboring countries. But Russia and Belarus, in this case under Lukashenko, they always lie. So here he says about 10,000 equipment units, vehicles, airplanes, could be even ships, yeah, in the Baltic Sea. So it is already way bigger than was declared. He says that the military drills are conducting using the experience of the special military operation. He said 333 airplanes are used, tactical aviation, fighter jets, and strategic aviation. 247 ships, so it's not the local military exercise as was declared. Absolutely not. It's the full-scale provocation, we may call it, yeah, of the Russian Federation and Belarus, where they use every sort of the weaponry. Plus missiles which are capable to carry nuclear warheads will also be used, like Iskanders. It is not just Belarus, it is happening around Baltic countries. Here they simulate the attack and how they want to annex those countries. For example, Katyn-Suwalki corridor. Yeah, some people say that Russia announced 1,800 soldiers, but only 13,000 showed up. Well, Russia didn't announce this number. They announced 12,500. Not Russians, but Belarus side. So it's the fake information. Tactical methods from the last century, that's what Russia showed. Even ZTV correspondents laughed at the parachute jump and other exotic measures. Is the parachute jumping some sort of the exotic measure or what? Like, what the hell is this? This is pure underestimating of Russian capabilities. Germany, yeah? Your possible direct enemy. And here it's the good comment actually. Please stop spreading fake news. Russia always reports under 13,000 to not have to accept international observers. 100% I even put my like here. Russian army as well as the Russian economy is still capable. Yes, it's going down, but it's not tomorrow. Then everything of that might collapse. Unfortunately for us, unfortunately for democracies and for those neighboring countries with Russia, yes, Russia struggles a lot. It's like this beast that was hurt a lot, that was wounded, but still could be very dangerous for years ahead. It might bite everyone. It's crazy. It's in agony. It's the parallel for you to understand that Putin wants war despite what is happening to Russia. And of course, there will be such YouTubers who might say to you, oh, those military drills really mean nothing. Russia showed its weakness with those drills. They're really outdated and so on. No, it's not like that in a close perspective, but Ukraine is doing everything for Russia to struggle more, for Russian economy to suffer, for Russian military forces to get heavy losses, yeah? But Ukraine alone cannot handle it. And on Russian TV they say about the possible nuclear strike on territory of Ukraine or territory of Poland. This is the military expert, and by the way, he's advisor of the Russian Army Command. He used to be the high-rank Russian officer before, some sort of the general. Then a nuclear strike will be delivered either on territory of Ukraine or on territory of Poland. If West continue with such steps, they are bringing closer and closer the moment of this nuclear war, yeah? So they say that the forces located in Poland or Ukraine will be targeted by nuclear weapons to start with, he says. In this regard, I would like to say to both politicians and the military, in the West probably, as for Kelleck's statements like they would not dare, we certainly would dare. You won't even have time to realize it before we do. That's the usual daily Russian Solovyov TV show, propaganda TV, and sometimes, yeah, they speak about nuclear war against Ukraine or NATO. Just for you, our guys in the West, to understand that Russia really wants this escalation up to using nuclear weapons. Yeah, they could be bluffing, but who knows? You never know what is inside Putin's sick head. Also, Russia warns Europe that we'll go after any state which takes our assets. And for now, there are several of the states which confiscate, well, not the entire Russian assets which were frozen, but percentage of the sum which has been accumulated on top of those money. Still, European allies, they hesitate to use the real Russian assets. Russians are just threatening Europe at every sort of the scale. Military, political, you may see the pressure online, yeah, with the Russian bot farms. New wave, new spiral of escalation. And about the Russian economy, it struggles, but it is still alive. However, for how long? That's the big question. So Russia close to cutting oil output due to drone attacks, sources say. This article was published today by Reuters. It is not because Ukrainian drones target those drilling facilities, no, absolutely not, but it is an outcome of Ukrainian strikes on the Russian oil reservoirs, also oil pipelines, plus export ports. Like, for example, not a long time ago, in Leningrad Oblast, Ukraine hit the biggest Russian oil port. And a couple of the oil tankers, by the way, were damaged. So Hungary was forced to sign the 10 years agreement with Shell, and Russia is losing customers, yeah, because of the physical inability to supply oil to them. The oil infrastructure, delivery methods were disturbed by Ukrainian drones. Not just refineries, right? So after all, there are circumstances for the Russian economy. Could be. Well, I wouldn't be too much optimistic about this one, because after all, Russia has customers in India and China, main customers, and the supply lines over there, they're quite okay. However, in a close perspective, obviously Russia will pump less oil. If I speak about the Russian oil and, for example, India, we have this strange message from Donald Trump. He writes, just had a wonderful phone call with my friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I wished him a very happy birthday. He is doing tremendous job, Narendra. Thank you for your support on ending the war between Russia and Ukraine, President Trump. Well, what kind of the support in ending the war? Because India continued to purchase Russian oil and they officially say that they will purchase it more. Is it some sort of the sarcasm from Donald Trump and support is here just to show India that they continue to support not ending but the war continuation? Well, for me it's hard to say really. Maybe I'm not the native English speaker or we need some sort of the enigma machine to decode some of the Trump's messages. It's already smelling around. Probably we touched Trump a little and yeah. Well, if it is the case, let's speak about his recent statements relative to Ukraine. Just a little, today's statements. I'm gonna play a few seconds of this clip, and I apologize for the sound quality because Donald Trump has this habit to record interviews on the way to airplanes or to helicopters with auxiliary power units in operation, so basically jet engines. And you hear almost nothing, but here it was evident what he said about the war in Ukraine. Let's listen. So Zelensky has to make a deal. He said about it here just 3 of the times. He repeated it. And it was clear that he said that Europe should stop buying Russian oil. So first of all, with this deal that Zelensky has to make, probably here Donald Trump mentions demands from Russia, from Putin, to give up Ukrainian territories, because there is no actual deal other than that on the table, yeah? Putin went to Alaska and he proposed, okay, give me Donetsk Oblast and I promise to cease fire till the end of your term, Donald Trump, and so you may get your Nobel Prize award. So Donald Trump is fully okay with this scenario. For him, if Russia occupies entire Ukraine is also fine, because he is far away from everything of that, far away from Europe. For him, this morality, democracy, autocracy, it's absolutely absent. He doesn't understand that at all. So the current narrative from Donald Trump is to push Ukraine for negotiations on Russian demands, but Ukraine will never ever do it. Under Zelensky as the president or different president. By the way, yesterday and today Donald Trump mentioned that Putin and Zelensky, they hate each other, so it's very difficult because of their mutual hatred. But if we return back in the history, actually Putin wanted to get rid of Poroshenko, and Russia was initially okay with President Zelensky. They thought that this guy is coming from the Russian-speaking regions, and he is the Russian speaker himself. Some of the actors from Russia were working in Zelensky's projects, in Quartal 95 comedy organization, so he had those kind of the connections. But after all, then he became the president, he switched to pro-Ukrainian politician. And that's how Putin started to hate Zelensky. And that is why actually Putin went to Ukraine using military force. He thought that he will be able to put his puppet, or as he thought, half puppet like Zelensky, and using Zelensky they may put some of the pro-Russian forces in Ukrainian parliament to get majority to change constitution and to occupy Ukraine using soft power. But it didn't happen, and Russia attacked Ukraine full scale in 2022. So the same as Putin hates Zelensky, now he hated President Poroshenko, who was before Zelensky. After all, it's not about Ukrainian president, it's about Ukrainian independence. So any sort of the pro-Ukrainian president will be not okay for Putin, because he wants to occupy Ukraine entirely. But for Donald Trump, it is not understandable. He doesn't want to believe in this explanation, and he turns everything of that to the personal conflict, which is absolutely absent. It is the conflict of Russia. Russia started. Russia wants to restore the Soviet Empire. Ukraine is just one step. Big step where Russia bogged down for many years, but still it's the step. Russia has imperialistic ambitions. And what's the second? The second part of his message was that European partners continue to purchase Russian oil and gas. It is obviously bad, but Europe was so long dependent on the Russian fossil fuels that it cannot cancel purchases at once. It needs some time, at least 2 more years. And why don't you speak to your friend Viktor Orban, who is the main buyer of the Russian oil in the European Union? But no, it's the different case, because Orban has the same crazy philosophy as MAGA cult. Or similar, let's say. So for the friends of Donald Trump, it's okay to purchase Russian oil, but for others, no. So this condition that you stop purchasing oil and I will apply sanctions, so it's unrealistic conditions. And actually, it's not just the demand, it's the condition for United States of America and for Donald Trump personally to apply sanctions on Russia. So he's not willing to apply it without this and that and so on. So he is looking for excuses of why he is unable to finish the war in Ukraine that he promised to finish in 24 hours. It's not because of Donny at all. No, it's because of those Europeans and the personal confrontation between Putin and Zelensky. That's the total bullshit, and me and you, we know it. And here even a Treasury Secretary of the United States, Scott Bessent, says that the United States won't hit China with tariffs over Russian oil unless Europe goes first. So it's the ultimatum for own allies in Europe, ultimatum for NATO, plus the main excuse for United States not to apply sanctions on Russia or secondary tariffs on China and India. It is clear that Dhoni will never apply those despite what could happen even if Europe applies those extra tariffs on China or other states who support Russia. Donald Trump will just come out with a different excuse. That's his policy. He's an idiot and he is supporting Russia. And basically Trump encourages Russia to escalate, continue military actions and expand elsewhere, also with drone attacks on NATO members. And now it's 100% understandable after recent provocation that the United States will never ever defend Europe if Russia starts some sort of the aggression there. By the way, Trump and Zelensky are probably going to meet between each other in New York the next week. Marco Rubio said about it, so probably this information is valid. At the same time, we have good news that the United States approved selling the package for Ukrainian army for about $500 million worth of weapons will be supplied to Ukraine. Those will be purchased by European partners. Awesome that at least this deal is working, so Ukrainian army will obtain some sort of the resource to continue to defend itself. Yeah, it's worse than it was under the previous White House administration, but at least something, yeah? And by the way, in the picture here you can see Bogdana artillery system of Ukrainian army. Ukraine is the main producer of artillery systems in Europe. So Ukraine alone produces more than all of the countries in Europe combined. One system per day, that's the scale of today's production and probably will be increased the next year. Yeah, we all call it a drone war, but artillery matters too. So Russia takes the experience of Ukrainian fighters, drone fighters, and they start to use their Yakovlev 52 with a gunner in the aft cockpit. You can see that it has some sort of the Kalashnikov. Pilot flies and this guy shuts down the drones. How effective it could be in Russia, it's a big question because Russia itself is very huge, so this Yakovlev 52 cannot control the vast airspace as, for example, in Ukraine. In Odessa region, there are lots of the Yakovlev 52 flying. They're being coordinated by our military and the sector is kind of small compared to vast Russia. Well, as a variant, they might place those Yakovlev 52 close to Ukrainian border somewhere in Belgorod or Kursk regions. Interesting, Ukrainian agents launched the attack on Russian base in Vladivostok. How far is it from Ukraine? Well, at least 6,000 kilometers, could be 7,000, something like that. Reports say that several of the Russian soldiers were unalived. Large explosions could be heard in the military base of 155th Separate Marine Brigade. Oh God! Again, we're speaking about the famous Russian Putin's favorite brigade, 155th. They conducted lots of the war crimes in Ukraine, but their military command was beheaded in the Kursk region roughly 2 months ago. Plus, for the last 3.5 years, Ukraine caused significant losses to that brigade, and the most of the soldiers who took part in initial invasion of Ukraine, they're already KA or severely wounded, so they hire new people, and their main base, yes, is out there, far away from Ukraine, close to Japan and Korea. But you see, Ukraine might perform some of the sabotage operations, and we have this video from the place, like police is stopping all the cars. There is also a military police deployed, so something really happened. Some of the kabooms, which led to the life losses of the local soldiers. I'm gonna monitor the situation and update you if I have some of the extra information. Because for now, just the fact of that attack is presented. There is any information about drones or what it really was. Whether it's the spider web-like operation or something else. So I need to wait more. And here, guys, I want to thank my Patreon supporters who motivate me to film these videos. Thank you guys a lot for what you do to support my channel. By the way, the link for my Patreon is in the video description just below. And now, my friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.